everybody. Gretchen here. Just trying to adjust my camera a little bit. Can everybody hear me okay? This is the first time I'm streaming on my new laptop, so I want to make sure that everything's working okay. Good. Thanks, Cheryl. As usual, here I am looking for my burnishing tool, which always gets hidden because it's shorter than the other tools, although I'm really not seeing it. Oh, I put it in the wrong mug. That's why. I was using it a lot this week. All right, so we've got 8 cards tonight, but they are really super easy. So it'll take us no time at all to assemble the cards. Hi, Judy. And but what will take a little bit of time is doing the coloring. So the as I said in my email, the packs for the card kits are put together a little differently than normal, just because of the way the cards are assembled. So I've got the 2 different colored sets for you, and you've got your stack of cards, and we might as well just go ahead and score all the cards all at once, because they all get scored the same way. And they're all 8.5 by 5.5, so they all get scored at 4 1/4. And so we can just do the whole stack, and then we don't have to worry about the scoreboard anymore. So you've got 4 of this. This color is actually called tarragon. It's a greenish kind of color. And we've got 2 white. And we've got 2 yellow. And this cardstock is a mix of Close to My Heart and other kinds of cardstock. These for the card bases are all a different brand, but the panels we're going to use in a minute are all Close to My Heart. So now that I've got them scored, just fold them in half. I still have lots of Close to My Heart supplies, but not always in all the colors that we need. When you saw I flipped it over, we've gone over this before, but I know there's a couple of new people, so I should clarify that when you score, you create an indent, and then when you fold against the indent. It's kind of like the opposite of what you would intuit, because you would think that, if you had your the raised portion, when you score, the opposite side has a bit of a raised thing, and you would think, oh, well, you fold it that way, but that's not how the paper folds best. So I'm not sure who discovered that, but it's the way it is. Okay, so we've got all our cards, and I'm just going to put those aside for a minute. And then I'm going to take our pack of the orangey yellow kind of cards. And like I said, these pieces should all be in one envelope for you. All of the pieces you need to make the 4 cards in this color way. I also have my sample cards here, so let me just put them out. Hopefully I can get them all out so you can see them all. I've moved the camera really close since I was coloring, but that gives me less space here to lay things out. Okay, there we go. All right, so, it was the other set that I should do first. Sorry about that. I forgot what I did here to help set this up. Okay, now that you've done all that, we're gonna switch gears here, and we're gonna do the blue and green ones first. Okay. And you've got 2 sapphire panels, and you've got 2 New England ivy panels. And you do not have these big pieces. Your pieces are already cut. I'm just going to cut them for you on camera here so you can see what I did. All right. And we've got shimmer trim, and we've got our sentiments, and we've got our little sloths to be colored. Okay. So I'm going to grab my small paper cutter here. So these pieces are all, well, first of all, the cards, once you fold them, are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. To get our 1/8 inch border around, these panels are 4 by 5 1/4. And all these measurements are on your instruction sheet. So it's 1/4 inch smaller on each side, which gives you 1/8 inch border all the way around. And then we want these pieces to be even smaller, because if you can see on each of the cards, we kind of have this gutter or, between, to give us the accent color between our pattern pieces. And that's about 1/4 inch. So because there's only one per side, so to speak, when we reassemble our cardstock, our pattern paper pieces onto the cardstock, the pattern paper again is going to be 1/4 inch smaller on each side. So these pieces are 3 3/4 by 5. And basically all you have to do is pick 4 pattern papers to get the most variety. Anyway, you want 4 different pattern papers that coordinate together. Now you could, if you just had scrap pieces, you could cut them into these 4 pieces. You can just pick up 4 pieces of scrap and make an assembly like this. I did you know, these coordinated. So if you have the 4 pieces, and this one is actually double-sided, you can see it's the green and the floral. So that works too. The 2 pinks, however, I'm just using the one side. But if you decide when you're assembling them, you want to use the opposite side of what I use, you know, obviously you are welcome to do that. But what I was saying is, so 4 different pattern pieces in this size, we will cut them apart, and then we get 4 cards that are all similar. And so it's a really easy way to make a whole bunch of different cards at once that all coordinate together with very little effort, really. And if you're using the 12 by 12 paper like I did, if you had to make like a whole bunch of cards, like Christmas cards or something, you actually get 6 of these panels per 12 by 12 piece of paper. So if you had 4 pieces of 12 by 12 paper and you cut them into the 6 rectangles, you would actually get 24 cards. So it's kind of a quick way to get a nice coordinated set if you were doing, you know, if you had a lot of cards to make. So anyway, we're going to put, now you're not going to do this because yours are already cut, but I'm going to show you what I did. And I'm going to cut 2 pieces at once. I would recommend when you were doing this for the first time that you only do 1 piece first. You know, it really depends on just how much strength your paper cutter has. So on the 5-inch side, we're going to put it in at 3 1/4. Move these 2 strips aside for the moment. We're going to turn it around and we're going to cut it at 2 1/4. So this gives us our biggest piece. And you can see here that that's our biggest piece on these cards. And then it also gives us our long, narrow piece. Okay. And then we're going to take our other strip and we're going to turn it the other way, the other direction, and we're going to cut it at 2 1/2. So then that gives us our 2 smaller pieces. Or, yeah, we've got 4 pieces here, but the two smaller sizes of. Okay, so I'm going to just show you that once more. So we're going to put it in on the 5-inch side at 3 1/4 inches. And then we're going to turn it and cut again at 2 1/4 inches. So we're going to, and then our long narrow piece. And then we're going to put the other strip in at 2 1/2 inches. Cut that, and then we have our other pieces. I swear it's harder to match them up than to actually do the cutting. So as you can see, this is really, really easy. And then you take your 4 pieces and, you know, I already coordinated it for you, but you can change it around if you want. And you just make sure you have 1 piece of each size of each pattern on your 4 background panels. And like I said, if you wanted to turn it over and use one of the other patterns, you are welcome to do so. The only thing, I mean, you couldn't turn them over, but it doesn't make any sense because these are double-sided. So you would have to turn both over and then you get the same combination. I was just going to say something. I don't know. It'll come to me. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So what I did was I put all 4 pieces in the same spot on each panel. But if you didn't want to, you wouldn't have to. I mean, if for some reason you want to switch around, like this one is the big and then the narrow one, if you wanted the bigger one on the right side for some reason, you could do that. You just, because all 4 form come together to form that rectangle, but with the gutter between the pieces. So now we can just put those down and assemble them. I used on the green piece, I used the darker side. And when I took my tape gun somewhere today, so the edge is a little wonky. So when you assemble the pieces and put them on your cardstock panel, what you're going to do is just make sure to put each piece in the corner. So you're just going to line up 2 edges, and then you will have that 1/4 inch gutter between each of the pieces. Now, certainly, if you like the look to be a little different, you could, like I put, so this is the wider piece and this is the skinnier piece. And now I'm going to put the wider piece on the right here, so it's opposite. And that gives you more space. When you put this one down, see, you have more space between the vertical gutters. If you didn't like that, you could, I'll show you with this piece. You could put both narrower pieces on the same side, and that gives you a slightly different look. It just depends on what you like. And, and sometimes it's not a matter of what you like. Sometimes it's a matter of you attach the piece to the wrong corner. And you know what? It doesn't really matter, because the person who gets the card is not going to know. So this is the first one with the dark green gutter. And luckily, I mean, the flowers have a direction, but there's not so many flowers, especially on this piece, that it matters. So you can see I turned that one sideways. But, basically when you have your panels together and you attach them to the card, you may want to pay attention to what direction you make your card. So if whatever, like before I said, if you're doing Christmas cards, so if you were putting something, your image or your sentiment on your Christmas card that is very directional, and it mattered, you might not either want to pick a directional paper, or you might want to make sure when you cut that paper, you're cutting it in a direction that makes sense. The sloths, you see, I made some horizontal, I made some vertical. It doesn't matter. They work both ways, but some people, some cards might not, or some images might not work as well. Try not to drop your paper with the adhesive side down like I just did. Okay, so those are our 2 green ones. Now I'm going to do the 2 blue ones, which is sapphire. And again, I use the darker side of the cardstock. It doesn't matter which papers, which sizes, which sloths go on which color. I just picked 2 different colors because I liked the look of both of them and just gave it a little more variety than making all the cards the same color. So, but in terms of picking a message or an image or whatever, or a combination of papers, that didn't make a difference to me. Okay, why? Oh, my cardstock is short. Okay, I'm going to fudge this here and I will fix it later. Hopefully all yours are the right size. I assume yours are all the right size. I just I had a couple of pieces that were a little shorter, and I must have grabbed one of those in my kit. You don't have any white squares. There aren't any white squares. There's a very pale pink. There's the deeper pink. There's the white background with the flowers. And then there's the green. If you're talking about the ones with the flowers, if you have 2 pieces of green, flip it over. Or actually any of them, maybe flip it over. Maybe that's what you're not seeing. Of all the, whichever one is in the bottom corner of which card. Are you talking about this pale pink? There is no white. There's the floral, there's the green, there's pale pink, and then there's the slightly deeper pink. And the back of the pink is this, the pale pink is this pink with this ribbon. So maybe it's just flipped over. I know everybody has all their pattern paper because when I cut them, I cut all 4 pieces at once and I stuck them all in the envelope together. So everybody should, of all the pieces, I know sometimes somebody is missing a piece, but I know you should all have your paper. So I would say just look in your envelope again. And see, or look at all your papers and maybe one of them got stuck to another one. I know I thought I had dropped some and I thought I lost one, and 2 of them were stuck together. Sometimes when you cut the pieces together, they do tend to stick together a little better. And if you can't find it right away, just move on to the next card, and I'm guessing you will find it by the time we finish all the cards. If not, I mean, I'll get you another piece, but okay. I know this, okay, this blue piece is the right size, so. Okay, so you should now have 4 panels here with the 4 pieces on them. And I am going to get another piece of that blue for my card. So I'll give you a second to catch up because I'm sure I worked quickly on you. Or if you kept up with me, then you can take a little bit of a breather. All right, I'm just going to actually add a strip of blue here instead of redoing it. And I didn't put that one piece on exactly straight, but I'm just going to fix that. Okay, so, you know, you can, if you look, oh, you can't even see it on camera. So you can see there's a little seam there in person, but I'm not going to worry about that. So be it. Okay, so now all we have to do is attach these panels to our card bases. And for this set, I used all of that tarragon paper. So I'm just going to take each one and attach it to a card. And this one I'm going to make sure I have a little extra adhesive because this is the piece I put that extra strip on. And the way I attach them all is I've got the card here that opens the standard way, and I put the biggest piece in the top left corner. Again, it doesn't really matter. The point is not the size or the positions of the papers. It's to having the variety of the different colors and patterns. But just to let you know what I did, that's what I did. Whoops, actually, now that I just said that, I see. Oh, but you know what? Ignore this card. So I have a little story for you. This one I didn't, but there's a reason, okay? And I just did it now so that you're following what I said in this class. So I put all of these panels together, and I did it in my dining room, standing up at my counter where I sometimes work. And I gathered all the pieces after I I don't think I put them on the cards yet. I just put them on, you know, these panels, and I brought them back to my office. And the next thing I was going to do was color my sloths. So this one I still put in the top left, but then I decided to turn it horizontally, just like this one. I turned it horizontally. So anyway, I brought it, you know, I brought them back to my office and I put them on my desk, and I was going to color the sloths next. And I was going to color the sloths later while I was watching TV, you know. So I put them down, and I don't know, the next day, I guess, or whenever, I went to finish the cards, and all of my yellow and orange ones were there, but I only had 3 of these blue ones. I only had these 3. And the 4th one, I have absolutely no idea where it went. That's why, if you had read my description of the class where I said there's only 7 in the pictures, but there really are 8 cards, and one of them went on an adventure, I still have not found it. I have no idea, absolutely no idea where it went. So I figured either it fell into some other supplies, and like 3 years from now, when I dig through those supplies, I'll find it and I'll go, oh my God, that's where they are. Or it got thrown in the garbage. Now I did look in the garbage, but I didn't do a deep dive in the garbage. So, you know, I don't know. So I had to remake this card. Luckily I had scrap paper left, so I was able to remake it. And that's why while I did the rest of them consistently, this one is a different direction because I wasn't paying attention when I put that card together a couple of days later, when I was cutting the kit. So I would have a sample of everything. That's why it's slightly different, because, you know, I was like, oh, it's not, I can't even make another, you know, one more card, because all the paper, you use all the papers together to make 4 cards. And, you know, I figured I'd deal with it in class, and then I'm like, oh, good, I have enough scrap paper that I can actually make the one. So if I ever find it, I'll let you know, because it'll be interesting where it shows up, but I have no idea. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we will put on our shimmer trim. And this is the shimmer trim, so it has the adhesive on it, but unfortunately that means that you have to pull the backing out, which sometimes is easier than other times. So this one is about down about 1.5 inches from the top of the panel. And if you haven't already attached your panel to the cardstock, I did mean to tell you, sometimes it's easier if you're going from edge to edge. Sometimes it's easier to attach the shimmer trim before you attach the panel to the card, because as you can see, I made it slightly longer. I always make it slightly longer so it won't be short. If it's not attached, you can trim the end with the scissors. Since mine is attached, I'm just using a knife, and I'm cutting along the edge here. And I don't want to cut too deep, because I don't want to cut through the card. I just want to cut through the shimmer trim to be the right length. You can also pull it up and trim it with your scissors. I've done that before. I'm not always completely accurate when I do that, but I do that. Okay, so next, so that was your longest piece of shimmer trim. The 2 medium-sized pieces should be about the same length. And I already trim them all on an angle for you, because it's easier when I'm cutting all the pieces, that if it's going to be on an angle, I might as well cut it on the angle. So this one is going to go about 1/4 inch or so, from 3/8 of an inch from the bottom of the panel there on the right. This one is going to come down from the top. And again, it's going to be about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch from the left side. And I'm just going to move this so I can reach it a little easier. Turn it. And if you like, if you want to turn your panel like I did in that one, go right ahead. And then we've got our short little piece. And this one is also going to come down from the top about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch from the left side. The measurement doesn't matter so much, just it's a little extra sparkle to the card. All right, I'm going to put my sloths aside for now because I'll color them all at the end. We'll get all the cards assembled first. So I'm just going to grab my 4 sentiments. Now I know some people didn't have their sentiments stamped because they wanted to use other ones, or you can mix and match, or whatever you want to do. But I'm just gonna put foam tape on each of these. And if you'd rather wait until your sloths are colored, that's fine. I just figured we'd do all this first because I probably won't color them all because I know you'll get bored watching me color. Or if you had to go early or whatever, at least the cards would be assembled. And just to let you know that I did attach the sloths with foam tape as well. I always keep my videos up, so if you do fall behind, you can rewatch them and, and pause them and whatnot where you need that. Also, we're going to do the same assembly method with the next set of colors in a few minutes here. So if you want to if that helps you just keep working on this set instead of moving forward to the other one so you don't get as confused. Obviously, do what you need to do. Okay, so on this one, I put the Don't Hurry, Be Happy. And again, the placement of the sentiment and the sloths isn't entirely crucial. It's just, you know, it's not like I did some big fancy figuring out to, you know, put them in a specific place. I just, you know, when I put them down, I put them in a place, you know, where I think they look good. Sorry, that was a happy Valentine's Day. So I used a variety. Well, you can tell like the Don't Hurry Be Happy and the Thank You So Much and a couple of the other ones, they came with the Sloth set, you know. And then I added in the birthday and the Happy Valentine's Day. So we had this one I put right over the shimmer trim. So we had a variety of different sentiments. And so, you know, like I said, if you want to mix and match, or if there's some that you didn't think you were going to use, you can turn them over and stamp your own thing, or use another piece of paper to do that, or not put the sentiment on at all. This is a newer trend, I would say, and I wouldn't say just recently, but from when I first started stamping, is that, you know, now we tend to, you know, often put a sentiment or some kind of message on the front as well as on the inside. Whereas back then we never put any words on the front, or at least I didn't, and I don't remember seeing a lot of cards that did, but I suppose there were people who did. All right, so basically that is the first 4 cards in this colorway. And then all we're going to do is we're going to color that. I already had one colored. So we're going to color these a little later, and then we can attach them to the card. What was I going to say? Oh, there were 5 different sloths in the stamp set, and you know, 4 cards in each set. So I used three of the sloths I used twice on 2 different cards, and this one and this sloth I only used one, so we'll use that one in the orange set. But I gave you 10 sloths. I gave you 2 of each of the 5 designs. So if you liked one of them better than one of the other ones, if you wanted to use an extra one of these instead of one of the other ones, you have that ability to do so. And if anybody wants to borrow my set and make more sloths, you of course are always welcome to do that. And as you can see, I bought the set with the die cuts, so I was able to die cut those before stamping them. Okay, I know some of you probably aren't done, but I'm going to move on to the other set. These are all made the exact same way. Okay, and so I just use the different colors from the papers in the paper collection that I had to focus on the different colors. So we have 2 yellow backgrounds, and this paper is called Lemonade, and we have 2 orange ones, and these are tangerine, I believe. Yeah, tangerine. And then we have the coral shimmer trim. You should have 4 pieces of that. And then we have more sentiments and more sloths. And then we have our pattern paper. Now these I already cut for myself as well as for you, so we don't have to go through the cutting process again. But remember, this video is always here. So although everything's in the directions I sent you, if you ever want to go back and watch the video to see again what I did, that's always there. To let you know, and it'll depend on which portion of the paper pack you got, but this paper that kind of goes from pink to orange here, and you can see here it's from orange to yellow. It is a gradient, as you can see. So there was some minty green in there too. So you may have gotten pieces that have some pink and minty green as opposed to this bold orange and pink. So don't get too confused. You know, that is the same paper. It's just a slightly different part of the paper that you may have received. Also, this paper with the stripes is actually the same paper, but you can see this is the front of it, and that is the back of it. So this one actually is more of the pinks. This one has more of the yellows and oranges. And you can use whichever side you like better, of course, as always. I decided, you know, depending on which card it was, I used different sides. So, again, I'm going to go through and I'm going to put one piece of each size, each pattern on each of the 4 cards here. And I am trying to make it easy on myself by following the same thing I did on the sample cards. So you are welcome to follow along. I guess since you guys don't have the cards in front of you to put these on, it's probably taking you a little longer to sort your pieces. But you can, you can follow along with me or not. I'm going to flip this one over again like I did on that one. Actually, I'm going to look at them all too. I'm going to decide once I have all the papers which sides I want to use. This one, this yellow, it also has this, the other side is this yellow with these white flowers. So that's kind of cute. So you may decide that you prefer to use that on one of your cards. What's the back of this one? Oh, again, it's green on green. It's just a different pattern. Okay. So again, it doesn't really matter which ones you put on the yellow background, which ones you put on the orange background, because all 4 cards have all 4 papers. So, and again, I just chose to always start with the big piece in the top left corner. And when you attach your pieces, just line up the edges and put each piece into the corner of your cardstock. I really did do a close-up on my camera here. It doesn't give me a whole lot of working space, but you know what it looks like when you put adhesive on the paper. Oh, excuse me. And so the back of this, you can see it better on the bigger piece. The back of this floral paper has these little houses on trees, which was also really cute, but I think in the smaller pieces, it doesn't, you don't get as much of the images, you know, like this one, you've got a partial house and a partial tree. And I thought the flowers were cute. So, you know, I wanted to use the flowers, but if you have a piece where it's cut really well and it looks cute, you know, why not? Okay, so we've got the first one. I don't want to cover up the cards in case you're looking at them for some reason. And I'm going to do my other yellow one. And I had my paper a little bit on tilt there, so I'll fix that. I'm just trying to decide here. I think I like the stripe better. I like to, you know, on these cards, I want to pull out the pink and the orange more, so I'm going to turn that one over and use the stripes on this card. Decisions. All right, and then I can do my 2 orange cards. All right. And the last one. This one I am going to keep on that side. I don't know why. Hey, Judy, did you ever find your other piece of paper? You're probably scurrying to try to keep up. Hey, look, I might actually make it. I shouldn't say this, but I might actually make it through class without. Oh no, I'm going to have to change my tape. I thought I was doing good, but I forgot. Still got to attach all these panels. Okay, now I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do it the way I meant to tell you to do it the first time and forgot, which is to put your shimmer trim on before attaching the panels to the card. Doesn't matter so much except on this first one that that goes all the way across, well, from top to bottom of the panel, about a half an inch from the right side. And so now, see, I can just cut to trim that a little easier than what I did with the knife before. And, you know, I said to myself 3 times when I was putting the kits together that I was going to tell you guys to do it that way. And, you know, what can I say? Okay, so that was the longest piece of shimmer trim. You've got 2 pieces that are close to in size, but one is a little longer. Take the one that's a little shorter, and that's going to go on this one. Sometimes I don't get it quite straight across when you're cutting off this comes on a roll, and sometimes when you're cutting it off the roll, I don't get it quite straight. So you can trim that if you need to. Straighten it out. Okay, this is going to go in the top right corner, about 1/4 of an inch or so in from the left. And that was the one that was slightly shorter. My backing is sticking to my fingers. Okay, so this one would be the one that is longer, slightly longer. Luckily, my shimmer trim is cooperating pretty well tonight. I hope yours is too. And this is going to be about 3/8, a half an inch from the top, coming in from the left. And again, not quite straight. I'm just straightening that out. That would be the other advantage of putting it on before you put the panel on the card. And then the shortest piece of shimmer trim goes on this one, about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the card on the right hand side there. All right, so again, we're going to put foam tape on our sentiment pieces. Sometimes when my first stamping doesn't come out as good, if it doesn't soak through the front, I just turn it over on the back. I try not to do that on yours, but on my pieces. So that's why, oh, you're not even seeing them that well, but that's why it looks like I'm putting foam tape on the stamped side of the card, and I am not actually doing that. The good stamping is on the other side. And also on these cards, just like the other set, once I color the sloths, I attached those with foam tape as well. Okay, so I've got foam tape on all of those, and we can attach them to the cards. And on the first one, we've got a Happy Valentine's Day in the top right corner. Now, I probably should have attached the panels before putting these on, because once you put stuff with foam tape, it just makes it a little harder to use the tape gun on the back, but I will manage. I didn't forget, I'm just slow, which to me is a belated birthday card. And we always need a belated birthday card for somebody at some point. So I thought that was perfect. This one is just the regular birthday message. These sloths are so cute. Cute little smiles. All right, and this one is Hang in There. All right, so those are those four. Now we can attach them to the cards. And what I did is I attached the two yellow panels to the white cardstock, white card base, and I attached the orange ones to the yellow card base. that's the end. Okay. These just get centered on the cards. Don't put it on upside down. And there you go. So now all we have to do is color our sloths and then put them on the cards. All right, so I'm gonna move these out of the way. And then, so you can still see these if you need to, while I color my sloths. Now, I used alcohol markers, but you can use any kind of markers you have, or you can use colored pencils. You can even watercolor. I did use the intense black ink on these, which is the alcohol-based ink, so that you can use any kind of medium within reason, and the ink should not bleed. One trick I'm going to teach you here is sometimes they don't, when you're stamping, you don't always get the best image. Okay, so you can see on this one, I'll bring it up a little bit. So you can see that his eye isn't quite solid. Okay, so one thing, and you can do this with a marker, but I actually had better luck, and I'm just taking my black colored pencil, and I actually did this on a couple of these sloths that are on these cards. Actually, I'm going to fix his nose right here. All right, don't do it at a distance because you have more control when you move up closer. And don't do it after you've already put foam tape on. But I'm just using my black colored pencil to deepen that ink color a little bit so that it just looks a little better. I'll show you in a minute. Actually, his nose is supposed to have some white on it, so, which I probably would have realized if I had brought it closer to me and studied it. So the other thing is, if you do this with colored pencil is not 100% erasable, but it is, you can erase it a little bit if you haven't pressed really hard and colored really deeply. So if you do get a little bit out of control and you go out at the edges a little bit, you do have the ability to possibly correct that a little bit, whereas you would not be able to with a marker. And I mean, there's nothing that says you have to do this. A lighter image is fine too. But if you wanted to make that color a little deeper and more consistent, you can do that. And I mean, that's the case for any image, whether you're coloring it or not. If you were just leaving this stamped as is, you could still do that. Now, like this one's a little lighter. I can go in and add a little bit of the pencil to it if I wanted to. So that's just a little extra tip there. So I'm going to use my markers here, and I might as well go and do this one first since I have it here. And this one is basically, it's just the sloth. The other, these three have branches. This one, it's just our little dude here. So what I did was I used gold brown blend, if you have these markers. But really, any brown, sloths are brown, but they're also gray. So a gray would work just as well as a brown, if that's the color you had available. And I'm taking the lightest shade here and coloring his face with the lighter shade, because I don't want him to be all one color. Now, I wasn't about to attempt this, but, actually there's a lot of sloths that have a green kind of coloring to them too. If you look online, you can find a lot of different images, and I don't know if it's, from the leaves, if it's kind of an algae moldy thing because they're so slow moving, but sometimes you see a little green to them too. But I didn't want my sloths to look weird, so I figured I would not do justice to that kind of shading. Okay, so next I'm going to the medium shade of this golden brown marker, and I'm going to do his head and his body. And for larger areas, I like to kind of outline the area and then fill it in. And the reason, and believe me, it took me a long time to try the alcohol markers because I know they are pricey. But they're really nice and smooth, and they blend well. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. Okay. And now I'm going to take the darker shade and I'm going to kind of go around the outlines. I'm coloring over the lines. The nice thing about the images that have some kind of definition like that, the lines or detailing in his fur, like here on his upper arm here, it kind of shows you, oh, this is an area that's supposed to be darker, so that's where I can do some blending. So I'm just using the darker shade to kind of outline and highlight those areas. And then I can go in and use the medium to blend it out a little. Now you don't want to add too much because then it'll get a lot darker, but you can kind of blend the edges of those two colors together to get some shading. So that's kind of the beauty of the alcohol markers, that it does that shading or blending, shading, both, I guess. And again, over his claws. And then, yeah, these little detail areas the artist put in when they designed the image, drew the image. I know when it's not the camera's focusing back here, so it's not, I know when I hold it up, it's not focusing all that great, but hopefully, I suppose it would probably change its focus if I did that. Now I'm wearing my glasses, so I can't see. Well, it doesn't like that. There we go, a little better. Now, one thing I experimented with when I colored these samples was, sloths are really hairy and furry. So they actually, I don't know if you've ever seen one in real life, but they actually, sorry about that. They have what looks like very coarse fur. And actually, I've touched one before and they are not exactly soft. They are pretty coarse. So I decided, well, instead of just having a solid shape of, put them next to each other, of brown there, that I would try to do some fur. So this is totally up to you. And like some of them I did, and some of them I didn't. So it's totally how you want to experiment. But what I did was, again, took the darker color and I just did some quick, they were actually shorter on the other sample, but I'm trying some longer ones here to make it look like you can see his fur a little bit. So just a thought. It was just an experiment. Obviously, they're not, super realistic sloths, but all right. So I'm going to do this sleepy guy here, and I'm going to do the same colors. And I'm going to do his face pale. Now, probably if I had more colors, I probably wouldn't make his face, quite so pale. It's kind of extreme. So I guess that's one advantage to colored pencils. If you feel more comfortable with colored pencils, is that you have a little more control over, you could use one pencil for the whole whole sloth, and you could color in the face a little lighter, and then add a little more pressure for the body, and then really put in a bunch more pressure for the darker highlighted areas in um, your you can have a little more control with the pencils. Of course, it takes practice. Everything always does, but the other thing is, like I said before, is that pencils are not 100% erasable, but they are slightly erasable. So I have gone through before, and if I've decided that I've made an area of an image too dark, you can go in and erase it, and you will still get a pale shadow of that color, but then you can, color it again just a little, um, and make it a little darker. And it can be very forgiving. But I bought my alcohol markers, and I spent a lot of money on them, and I'm going to use them. But I do like my colored pencils too. And if you are interested in seeing me do more with colored pencils, just let me know, and I will make sure the next time um, I use those instead. Again, I'm going through now with the darker shade, and just, right on the head, I was basically outlining the head, the forehead, and the hairlines, the drawn hairlines on his head, and now his arm and his body. This area is kind of in shadow because he's hanging over the branch, so I'm going to make that a little darker. And, under his chin, it's going to be in shadow, so that's going to be a little darker. And under the branch here, and where his arms are hanging over his legs, his claws. Technically, I guess his claws could be like a deeper gray, but all right. And now I'm going to bring my medium color back in. Just do a little bit of shading. They do, the alcohol markers do look slightly different after they dry, because they blend in a little, they bleed into the paper a bit. You can see if you turn it around that it will bleed through the paper. And if you do this kind of thing yourself with your own markers, you want to make sure that you have a nice smooth cardstock to color on. That works best. All right, so I'm with the branch, I'm going to use a different brown, earth brown shades. Because I want to distinguish the branch from the fur. And this is a much darker, these are shades. The Spectrum Noir markers have blends and shades, and the shades are the darker versions of the blend colors. So this one is a shade, the other one was a blend. So these are, it starts out, even though there's a light, medium, and a dark, the light version is actually darker than the darkest version of the blend colors, if you catch all that. If you don't have these markers, it doesn't really matter, but suffice it to say I'm using some very dark color here. And that was the light version. And this is the darker end of that marker where I'm going in again just to highlight some of the wood grain in the branch. And it's still dark, but you can see the definition there in person. All right, and now I'm going to use, this is Jade Green Shades for the leaves. So I'm going to use the lightest to color in the entirety of the leaf. And then I'm going to take, I don't think I want the dark, I want the medium. And I'm just going to highlight the veining on those leaves. And then also just a little bit on the leaf right next to where the branch is. Just a little shading there. I don't know how well you can see that. So just to make it a little darker close to the branch. And as long as I already have this marker out, I'm going to do the leaf. I'll do the leaves on both the other sloths. Again, I'm going to start out with the light. For the whole leaf, and then I'll go in with the medium. Whoops. Oh, I'm glad I did that because now I can show you something. All right, and now I'm going to go in with the medium and just highlight that vein and just do a little shading right close to the branch. All right, now I got a little overzealous with the marker, which I usually do. And let's see if this is actually working today. These pens drive me nuts because they dry out so quickly. Here we go. Okay, so this is a white gel pen. And I call it's so minor down here that it's really not even worth correcting, but I'm just going to show you anyway. I went outside the lines, and if you take a white gel pen, you can color over. Again, I know it's not in focus, but you can color over where you went outside the line, and the white gel pen, the thickness of the ink will cover up that mark, that stray mark, and you won't even notice that you wandered outside the line. You can also try it with a white colored pencil. It's not as thick, it's not quite the same, but it could help you a little bit if you were worried about it. Okay, I'm going to do the branches on these two guys next. And again, this is earth brown shades. And I'm doing the lightest. So, you could actually, you know, if you only had a dark brown marker or a colored pencil or whatever, you could use this color for the sloth as well. And then maybe you could make you could do the reverse, right? If you want a dark brown sloth, you could color him dark brown and then do a lighter brown branch, or you can make the branch more green like, or you can make it more grayish. So there's some variety if you wanted to do something a little different. I'm going through with the dark one again and highlighting some of that wood grain. Now, I'll notice that what I did on my sample here, see, obviously I colored in Mr. Sloth first, and I colored in his claws. And then, so when I colored in the branch, I didn't color over his claws with the dark brown. On this one, because I colored the branch first, I colored over his claws and they're kind of blending in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the dark brown, and it's not the same. I like it better the other way, but I did kind of color his claws there darker. So hopefully they stand out a little bit from the wood. I could also, I'm just looking to see if I have a black marker. I don't actually have a black in this, but of course I have a Sharpie, so I could go in with my Sharpie. And let's see how this looks. And make it even darker with the black Sharpie, which, I mean, it's a little darker, not a lot. So something to think about when you're coloring. See, it made sense to color the sloth first because I wouldn't have done that. So, but it's okay. I don't think anybody's going to hold it against me. And I'm just going to go, and we don't have that claw problem on this, but I do notice that I missed one of the leaves. So I'm going to go in and color that. And I'm going to color the branch. I don't have to worry about this one with the claws. So I'm safe to do that. I'll do this when I'm coloring several things, like either it's the same image over and over again, or it's like a collection like these that are similar. Like it's like, okay, well, I'm using the dark brown marker, so let me color a whole bunch of them with the dark brown, and then, switch colors. It seems when you're doing a bunch of things, it seems to go faster when you batch it up like that. So that's a little tip for the assembly line process even when you're coloring. I'm just going to use the dark end again to highlight that wood grain. All right. And now I can actually color the sloth's fur and use the lightest color for the faces. And then now the medium for the rest of his fur. Even though these guys have some slightly bigger areas here to color in, they're really not that bad. Sometimes when you have, this one's a little bigger, but sometimes when you have like big areas of all solid one color, it seems a little tedious. But these guys are kind of on the edge. They're not too big. All right, I'm going to go in with the darker and add that shadowing. Back legs in shadow there, so I made that all darker. I don't like that. Kind of colored in the whole area darker, and I don't really like how I did that, but sometimes you gotta experiment, right? You guys can learn from what I do and take what you want, not take what you don't want, what you don't like. So like on the sample one, I just really went over the detail parts of the stamp, and here I kind of made his whole back darker, and I don't really like that look, but you can do what you like. Just gonna try to even out the area a little bit since I did that. I don't know if that's any better, but all right. And now, Probably would have been okay if I had used the medium color instead of the dark color. It's just too extreme. And actually, if I go over it, if I go over the rest of him, this is the beauty of alcohol markers. Now, if you did this with a water-based marker, it would probably, you would have to wait till it dried, but it would probably get too wet, and you run the risk of ripping the paper and getting too much wetness on the paper and kind of, you could abrade away the top of the paper. I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but sometimes if you go over with a water-based marker, if you go over it over, you lose the integrity of the paper because it just can't take the moisture. But the alcohol markers, like you can, I mean, I'm sure there is a point where you do not want to keep going, but I'm just using the same medium color that I used, and every time I do another layer, because that's like 3 layers, and it just makes it darker. So like you can see on this one versus this one, I just colored, whoops, let's not touch that. The inside of the fur here is 1 layer of ink, and this is 3. And so that's another way you can get different colors. But for my case, because I had made his back kind of so dark, and it was too extreme between the light and the dark, I added another layer or 2 of ink to darken this area of it. And now I like it a little better. Still like it the first way I did it best, but this improves it. Now I really could go in the dark and make him all dark, and and then I wouldn't have those highlights, and maybe I'd like that even better. But I'm going to wait till this dries and see how I feel about it. I think that looks okay for now. And we're just going to go do this one, and again, I'm back to the medium. The alcohol markers, because the ink kind of blends into itself, it doesn't hold the brush strokes as much. But if you are finding with whatever you're using, that you are seeing brush strokes, then you just probably want to be careful about what direction you color in, and use those to your advantage. Like, make the brush strokes look like they're the fur. And then everybody will think you're so clever. So now I'm just going in with the darker marker again to outline and shadow. And I'm going to be much more careful on these fur lines and only make a big, make a quick brush over those and not color in the whole area like I did on the other one. But you know, you practice, you try different things, you learn what you like. And then I'm going to go back in with the medium and just do a little more shading on these legs there in the back, because they should look like they're kind of in shadow. And there we go. So there we have our 4 sloths. I will go ahead and put those on our cards with our foam tape. Just cutting apart my foam tape here for, still not on camera. I take my rolls of foam tape and cut them into smaller pieces. Okay, so like on a, you know, you saw my sentiments, I tend to put them in the corners and then in the middle if it's a bigger piece. These guys are kind of weirdly shaped, and you can actually see the back of them because of the marker coming through. So I try to make sure that I put a piece, you know, I want good coverage, but I definitely want one if there's any weird areas. So like here, you know, you've got the branch sticking out and you've got, you know, leaves and branches over here. I want to make sure that those areas are definitely supported by some of the foam tape. And some people like to use a ton of it, and I will cut it into smaller pieces, and it's whatever you prefer to do. It gets expensive though, so I don't want to use too much of it. And really, once the stuff is attached, it will hold good. So it's not a matter of making sure that it won't come off, because believe me, it won't come off easily. It's just a matter of making sure your pieces are supported. And if, you know, these aren't huge, so it's not too much to worry about. But sometimes when you use a bigger piece, you have a bigger piece that you're putting foam tape on, you want to make sure that it like doesn't sag in the middle. And when you cut little pieces, you can get them in smaller areas. piece was really too small to cut, and I was trying to, it was too small to hold and cut, so I kind of got a weird angle there. I mean, you don't have to have one everywhere, but sometimes they get a little overzealous. Okay, I think that's good. And then you have to take all the backing off. And, you know, if you don't have foam tape or you don't like the dimensional, look, you can attach them flat too. This tape isn't so puffy that it makes it difficult to mail. There are tapes that are very puffy, and it would be a little more challenging to put them through the mail. I've never, as far as I know, nobody has ever reported a problem in the cards I've gotten. I've never had a problem with anything that had this layer of this thickness of foam tape on it. Okay, so now, so this is the birthday card, and I'm just going to put this guy on it. And this is the hang in there guy. And I didn't forget, I'm just slow. And happy Valentine's Day. And there we go. We've got our 4 cards. All right, so I'm not going to color in the other sloths because it's the same thing over again. But what I will do is I will color in this guy with the pillow, because he is the 5th sloth in the collection. And this one, I got to use a little different color here because I his pillow I made blue. Sorry, brain freeze there. So I did the stripes kind of on the inside of the pillow. This is True Blue Blend. So I did those stripes with the dark. I started with the dark there. And then I did the rest of the pillow in the light. Well, the top of the pillow here. And then I'm going to use the medium between the stripes. And then as some of the shading here under his head, around the edges. So it just looks like the pillow has some shading there. And the rest of the sloth is just the same as the other guys. Use the lightest color, the golden brown, for his face. And then the medium for the majority of his fur. And the dark for some of the shadowing here, shading. There we go. And I might as well attach him to his card. And there you go. And that's what these guys will look like. They're all in your instructions. So if you need more reference, the pictures are all in there. And I hope you enjoyed them. And I'll have some more classes coming up. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. I'll wait a second before I disconnect in case there's a question right now. Everybody's been quiet for the last good portion of the class because I'm sure I've been keeping you busy, so you've been working. You're welcome, Cheryl. Let me hope everybody, Karen and Carol, all enjoy it. Let me know how it goes. And hopefully I will see everybody soon. So, good night. That'll be fun.